Hey, thanks for checking out Next Level Carpentry. I'm Matt Jackson, actually a long way out of the shop today on a vacation to western Wyoming, the Grand Tetons, and I just thought I'd give you a little peek into some of the stuff I like to do on vacation. And one of the things, I've probably got the carpenter's curse. I go around and eyeball things and look at how other people do things, the results they get, the kind of workmanship. Even with all this mountain scenery out here to enjoy and places to go on mountain bike trails. There's some awesome single track mountain bike trails in the Jackson Hole area. I'd love to get into that. But somewhere during the trip, I always like to kind of drive around and see what's going on in another part of the world. Well, I've got to admit, it's easy to be cynical with so much slapdash work going on these days on TV and everywhere. You just think, what's this world coming to? Well, that's what makes it so neat to go other places in the world. And like on this vacation, I tour job sites, just kind of poke around and see what's going on. I came to this particular job site and was thoroughly impressed with the way they're building. I spoke with Dave. I'm not sure if he wants to be anonymous or not, but thanks for your time, Dave. I appreciate it. I spoke with him and asked if it was okay if I came after hours and shot a little video of his job site. And this is a man's signature. This is how he works. This is important to him, how this gets done. And so I want to show you one thing, what an awesome job site looks like, and then I want to cover some details. You probably don't know it, but the Teton Range is on a tectonic fault or an earthquake fault or whatever. So they've got to build earthquake zone ratings and standards into the structure. I'm saying that all weird, but because it's Jackson Hole, they get, I don't know, 400 inches of snow every year. They got crazy snow loads on the building. So those two factors come into play when they're building these magnificent homes. And I'll show you some of those details. But the overlying principle that I want to show is there are people out there doing great work. They know what the heck they're doing. This is out of my league. It's all carpentry. I understand, you know, the cuts and the framing and the layout, but getting a structure like this that's this complicated and this high-end done to this level, that's remarkable. So I got to say kudos to Dave and his crew that are building these homes. They've been out in this area for a number of years, so they kind of got this thing figured out, and they're doing an excellent job. I'm not sure if Dave wants to remain anonymous or not. If he doesn't, if he wants a little spin or a plug from the video, I'll put a link to him in the comments below. But from what I see here, I'd hire this guy in a minute. This is awesome work. So I'm going to quit blabbing here, and we'll take a look around at some of these cool details. If I understood properly from the conversation I had with Dave, this is a master suite, the separate wing of this house, which is pretty amazing in itself. But look at this wall. Is this nuts or what? They've got beams for an open beam ceiling. You can see the 3 pockets up here, and solid cripples, LSL beams or studs for stiffness. And then here, I hope this shows up. I'll do a B-roll and show all the earthquake ties that bolt this structure down directly to the foundation to resist the shear forces from an earthquake. So the complexity of a simple gable wall, if this was framed 2 foot on center with 2x6s, like in many parts of the country, there'd be nothing here. But every level of detail that they have to add adds complexity, and somebody's got to be paying attention. We've got blocking in here. This gets vertical plank siding, so they've got nice, neat blocking for nailing on that. They've had to lay out the gable end to match the roof pitch ahead of time. And you can see the layout lines here on the floor. All this is snapped out ahead of time, so when they stand that wall up, they've got the exact profile that they need to match the roof. Here's a detail of the earthquake ties. I'm sure they got a fancy name for them. I don't know what it is because I don't have to put many of these in. But they stabilize that wall from the shear forces in an earthquake, I believe. What's remarkable here is how true this framing is. I'm going to go into the wall here. The audio is going to be terrible. But this whole thing just planes out. They got these things straight as an arrow. It's consistent. Just walking around the room. Here's another opening. Solid lumber header up here. Cripples like crazy to support the snow loads that they have to deal with. Here's the gable wall that we started out looking at. I'm going to have my terminology all messed up, but the laminated header up there to carry the weight of the open beam rafter or open beam ridge from one end to the other. Just remarkable stuff. A couple windows in the side wall. Look at the framing on that. That's for 2 windows. And the other thing here is, look at this job site. It's immaculate, broom clean. They've been working all day, doing all sorts of framing, and they take that little bit of time at the end of the day to stack up scraps, sweep up the sawdust, so when they come in the morning, all ready to hit it again. I'll walk in to the main part of the house from the master bedroom area, if I understood that right. I'm not sure what these rooms are. I didn't study the plans. I didn't want to take up too much of Dave's time, but the structure in these houses is just phenomenal. Here's our beams. I'm not sure what this room is, but I know there's incredible loads coming down from upstairs, requiring steel I-beams supported by wood columns made of built-up 2x6s. A quick panning shot of the garage, and you can see the same thing, attention to detail. You can see all the earthquake ties holding the shear wall on the end of the garage. A whole stack of 2x6s to take the snow load from the beam, carries the weight of the bedroom, whatever it is upstairs. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. These got to be 12-inch LVL beams holding up loads and stresses from the upstairs. And all that stuff has a purpose. It's not stuck in there after the fact. Oh wait, we got to do a chase for the HVAC here. Somebody's paying attention to the plans. Hopefully the architect's drawn it up nice, but they've got to execute that and get it all done so they're not coming back with a hack and smear deal to fix all the things they overlooked on the first go around. Check out the stairs. It's not everyday construction to require this, but that stairway is beefy. Unbelievable. Walking out the back of the house with the stellar mountain view. Just incredible framing details everywhere you look. These are the earthquake ties, 1/2-inch all thread running up to secure things on the second floor, with a pair of them in the corner for stabilizing this gable wall. These are a couple of Simpson valley rafter brackets made out of welded steel. Those are Simpson hangers. There's a couple large valleys on the second floor. I'll give you an idea of about where those things go, but that's not sheet metal. That's structural steel for holding valley rafters on a residence. I'm kind of amazed by the framing for a window here on the side. 2 cripples on each side, and then extra studs for bearing loads from upstairs. And there's a whole nother room that goes on the back here. A great room that ties into that fireplace, and I'm sure that's a structural chimney to stabilize the back of the structure. And the Simpson Strong Tie Company has got an amazing outlet for their products on these homes. Anchor bolts in the foundation. The back wall of these houses has got a huge window, so it's got steel framing in there. My audio is kind of acting up, so forgive me if it cuts in and out, but you can see here this house is a very similar floor plan to the one that's in the framing stage. This one was just started sooner, but you can see that huge gable end and all that glass with the mountain view, but it requires all that extra structural steel inside to keep that stable if there's ever a tremor from an earthquake here. And it looks like a 1-inch anchor bolt coming out of the foundation there. And all that structural steel and engineering has to be incorporated into the framing as it goes up. Again, look at this job site. Things are neatly stacked, ready to go. Beams are covered up, protect them from UV and the weather. Material on hand for what's coming next, wrapped up to keep the sun and the elements off. Heck, it can snow here this time of year. And here's a couple of structure steel columns. I think these are the 2 that'll be built into the gable end. That's not thin steel either. Those are some beefy beams to hold up to stresses from a potential earthquake and a large gable end that's primarily glass. Looking up the stairs, again, there's the double LVL stringer for structure on the outside of the knot stringer that holds the steps. On the wall up here, there's 2.5-inch thick blocking all fastened in. That supports a shed roof that covers the entryway. So I've got all that blocking to attach rafters, etc. when that phase of the project comes along. I'm shooting this little bit of B-roll here to show how this shed roof that ties into the side requires that 2x blocking on the inside to tie all that together and make sure the snow doesn't tear that roof off. I'm going to sneak upstairs here. And I didn't ask Dave if I could go up here because I didn't want him to get in trouble if he had to say no. Looking around upstairs, guys got all their fall protection hardware ready to go to work in the morning. Well, look at the job site. Even the garbage can is empty over there. Neat as a pin, straight as an arrow. That ridge beam there probably gets wrapped with some cool looking old wood. Talk about first class building. Again, you can see these built up 2x6 posts to support the weight of the roof. This room is over the garage, so the loads from these wide columns are what transfer onto the steel beams and micro lamps that I showed in that panning shot of the garage. And there's a window with $1 million view and framing like you seldom see. There's headers and blocking in here for all the conditions that come later. This looks like it's going to be an open beam ceiling, probably some tongue and groove decking on top. These big Douglas fir timbers cantilever out to support the overhangs, sticking on the outside of the building. And they already got a weather barrier on the wall behind that angled support for the end of that. So you're probably getting the idea of what's so impressive about this type of construction and this particular job site just by looking around at these details. And it kind of never quits. Take a look at this corner. Let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 Douglas fir 2x6s to take the load in this one corner alone. This is where one of those big valleys comes in. I can't tell which way it goes, this way or that way, without looking at the plan or thinking about it too hard. But the valley rafters that come through here are tied to the ridge with those big welded steel Simpson brackets. But the impressive thing about this is not only its strength and its necessity, but the precision of this. This is all just flush as can be, everything. They don't have to dink around with shimming or anything or planing when it comes time to sheetrock. And it's all because somebody's paying attention to the work. The same details apply to a regular house and a regular framing, but if there's a combination of error, it just gets magnified when you get into an extreme framing situation like this. So that's why it's so cool to see. And I know it doesn't seem like it, but I didn't come here to brag up on Dave and his crew. They deserve it, that's for sure. But I really wanted to share with everybody what's impressive to a lifelong carpenter. The three things that impressed me most when I got on the job site was how clean it is, the extent that these guys got to go to meet all the codes and structural requirements with that corner. And the third thing that caught my eye and really impressed me was this right here. A simple string line. On a building this complicated, there's a lot of ways to do it wrong, and somebody that's out of their league or is not paying attention is going to find out too late that they had done some things wrong and they've gone too far ahead to back up and fix them. But somebody that's paying attention puts this in ahead of time and builds to it so that when they get to the end, they don't have to start over at the beginning. So a little detail like this, there's a slot in this sheathing so that that string line can run true from one end of the building to the other. With an experienced carpenter's forethought, the string is gauged 2 inches off the framing. And somebody took the time to cut a slot everywhere it passes through sheeting to get it done right the first time. That string runs from this corner, past the window with a beautiful view, and runs right through another gable shear wall in that small slit. And the 2-inch spacing rather than 1.5 inches allows it to clear all the backer studs in each corner. Runs right on by, all the way to a 2-inch gauge block on this end of the structure. That way, when they're cutting these rough sawn 2x10 fir rafters that have a notch for a ledger in the top, a bird's mouth for the beam in the middle, and another bird's mouth for the wall plate. Everything lines up straight and true. And check out this wall. The whole thing planes out because of that simple string and the forethought to put it there in the first place. And also the knowledge of how to use it. Same thing with the other side of the second floor. String line runs from one end to the other, keeping everything straight as an arrow. At the other end of the structure, more of this advanced framing with a forethought for everything that's coming up. Here's notches in the gable wall, all set up so that when it comes time to set the microlam, goes through the hole just as they intended. Well, I guess I'll wrap this up. I'm running out of time, daylight, and battery life. But I hope you enjoyed this vacation tour of a job site to see some of the cool stuff that's going on in the world. Younger guys that are learning carpentry and wondering, hey, is this a good place to go? Look around. I mean, how could you beat a job site like this? That kind of a life, working a long, hard day in the sun and the fresh air, building something like this that's going to withstand snow and earthquakes for a long, long time. It's a pretty rewarding thing to do. If you like the video, I hope you'll consider subscribing to Next Level Carpentry if you haven't already. And while you're at it, hit that thumbs up button so YouTube knows something's going on here with Next Level Carpentry. I want to thank all the new patrons on Patreon. There's a growing list, and the things you're doing to help support Next Level Carpentry helps allow me to get content like this put together and uploaded for you. And again, I want to thank Dave for letting me tour his job site with 92,000 subscribers tagging along for the view. And so, before my last battery dies, and until next time, thanks for watching. How can you beat that?